In this video, we'll take a look at how to edit panels and flaps. And so in our property inspector over here, we have these different groups. Here's the panels, the standard flaps, and glue flaps. And each one of them has an edit button that opens up further edits. But before we go there, let's look at the properties that we can change right on this page. And so the flap or the panels are numbered from left to right. It says here in our drop down, you can see that we're on panel number 1 right here. And this next little checkbox here is to use patterns for the panel recess. Now what that is I'll show you by clicking on it. And if I click on it, does nothing because nothing's selected, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to select panels 1 and 3, and what it does is it staggers these panels and it moves 1 and 3 down or up to stagger the panels. Now I can also do 2 and 4, which will obviously stagger 2 and 4. Now that by default, or by this checkbox, uses the thickness of the material for the stagger, and you can change that manually if you want to take off the this used thickness. So we get down to the flaps. We have the default length, which is the default length of these flaps here. These have been edited to be shorter, but just to get things kind of close to what you want, you can set the default there. If I hit reset, it's going to change all these back to the default. I can turn off all of the top flaps or all of the bottom flaps if I want to have the box like that. And again, they go from left to right, so we have all the way down to at the bottom we have the flap number 4, bottom flap number 4, and I just wanted to show you that. So we'll move this back into where we were. So glue flap, you can have a glue flap or not. You can set the glue flap position. That's either inside or outside. It's outside by default, but you may want to set it to the inside if you had illustration all the way to the edge on this panel here. You may want your glue flap to fold on the inside. So that's that little setting there. So if we go to the Edit Panel button and click on it, it'll give us a little bit of options that we can do. One of the ones that are very important to notice here is the fold sequence, and that's the position that this particular flap folds. Right now, when you're in 3D and you're moving the slider, in the second spot of the slider, the second sequence, this will fold, this flap will fold. So that's something that you want to set from here. Now that offset that we used the pattern for earlier with material, it can also be set here independently, and you can set it to whatever you want, and your flap or your panel will be offset. We also can set the glue flap inside or outside from the panel setting, so that's just a little extra thing there so that we can take care of that without having to go to the other option. So when we get to the flaps, the standard flaps, and we go to a setting on them, if the flap has been imported and has a particular, from this drop down, if we can edit that flap, like this one for example, when I change it to the dust flap, Now you can see I have this advanced setting here, which allows me to do other things. And we'll look at that in our next video on how to edit advanced settings. So that about covers our flaps and panels. And we'll look, as I said, at editing the advanced settings in the next video.